Hello, I'm Layne Hartsell with the Korea IT Times. I'm here with Oliver Sampson, a good friend of mine, computer engineer. How's it going, Ollie?
Great. The weather's a little hot here in Europe this summer, but I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, so we're back to discuss the state of artificial intelligence, AI, and it's a continuing dialogue that we have. We were going to talk about today, what is this state of AI? There's an integration coming up here in about 3 or 4 months, towards the end of the year. There's all kinds of, you know, information in the news I'm seeing about safety issues. There's take a specific one. One person was kind of like plagiarizing using AI and then creating fake news stories to create kind of like this false image out there. So let me put those out there. And first, we'll start off with, what is the state of AI at this moment?
Gosh, it's sort of like, what's the state of healthcare? Well, which part do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about the good stuff or the bad stuff? I guess the good stuff is that this amazing experiment in twiddling with large language models by hobbyists and professionals and researchers, and skipping basically the regular academic journal conference, poster, paper sessions, and just writing blog posts. Hugging Face has basically become a social network now, where people share their models and with the latest improvements to however they're tweaking the whatever models are coming out. So there's small models and large models and how whatever they're doing with them. And that's really amazing. It is a it's kind of a trope. It's an amazing time to be alive. But there's really something that has happened in the democratization of computer type and natural language processing and large language models and artificial intelligence and machine learning. All of these, it's been a huge influx of a wide variety of people around the entire world, providing significant progress to our understanding of the use of these models and the use and creating applications for them. Now, so that's very, very good. And also it's also going very, very fast because they're basically skipping, or some of these researchers are skipping the traditional sort of academic pipeline, where everything slows down into like 6 months or year long sort of sprints, if you will. So I think that's fantastic. I think it's amazing. And I think the progress that's just happening in very, very short period of time is overwhelming. So great. The tools that are being developed, the open source tools, and the community that's going around these tools so that everybody, you, me, anybody can just sit down and write a program. You got an idea, you start a company. Fantastic. Great stuff. The bad news is, as you alluded to, there are ways of using this technology in order to create things that are not necessarily so good. In the world of computer vision, we were introduced to this concept of deep fakes.
Mhm.
I guess it was 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Now we went from having hand curated fake news to the automatic generation of fake news.
Mhm.
We have the ability to create fake images that are very, very difficult to decode or to decide if they are fake. So it's a very interesting social change where we went from not wanting to believe what we're reading that was written by whatever some then when you talk about the crazy uncle at Thanksgiving or what have you, or the equivalent of what is happening in Facebook and where everything's so deteriorated in 2016 to 2020 when everything was just basically everything fell apart as far as the social network aspects go. And so it seems like there's a movement. Like concerts are selling out hugely now. So public events are selling out. There seems to be this almost sort of a sociological movement of driving people to go back into really sort of interpersonal and real experiences that have to, that you don't need to validate. You're experiencing them in the real world.
Mm.
And so, yeah, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I think the cause isn't such a good thing, so I'm not really sure what to think of that. But it's an interesting sort of side effect is that there's been this real movement of people towards real experiences. And so I think that's sort of an interesting observation. So the
Mhm.
state of AI, yeah, we're moving really, really fast, and we're not really sure what the effects are going to be. But I really hope that this sort of criminal intent of fake information and fake images, I hope we figure out how to get a handle on that some way, because really I don't like that. That's not good.
Right, right. Can you talk about, or do you know about, like, say, Eric Schmidt from Google in the past, or well, today he's talking about some kind of integration in AI that's coming out later this year. Do you know about this particular?
No, I haven't heard about that, but Eric Schmidt was just in the news, you know. He
Mhm.
gave a talk at a class at Stanford, I believe it was, as part of the computer science thing. And he basically said, you know, that things are moving too slowly now. And he thought that the way things were before, when people sacrificed their bodies for working at a startup and working 20 hours a day and whatever, yeah, he made the news recently. So
Oh,
I don't know. Eric Schmidt, the don't be evil guy who became the evil guy. I don't know. If he's talking about integration, that's probably not a good thing. So, but no, I don't know specifically what that
I,
is about.
right. I'm quoting him, not, yeah, not praising him necessarily. Some kind of integration apparently is coming along. Maybe, I don't know the specifics. I wouldn't be able to talk about it. Okay, so, you say there's kind of a re-socialization going on, and at the same time, this hyper fast kind of digital system, developing. Uh, I mean, we could go in different directions, philosophy of sociology, but I think let's stay with the AI. I mean, what are you seeing now, say compared to say 3 months ago when we talked, or what do you think?
Um, well, you know, as far as the product angle is going, you know, so you have a couple of large companies, Anthropic,
That's right.
Mistral,
Yep.
OpenAI, uh, I guess Microsoft, or and now Apple is coming out with some products. You have some very large companies that have spent a lot of money to create very, very large language models that are behind some sort of like paywall, or some behind an API where you don't actually know what the model is. You don't know how the model's being refined. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know how the reinforcement learning with human feedback is changing the answers. So there are reports of people asking particular types of questions, and then they'll get flagged as being wrong. And then a month later or a week later, they go back and ask the same question again, and suddenly the answer is correct. So there is some twiddling happening in the background there.
Mhm.
And so there's these large, and people, if you wanted, there are startups or whatever that are trying to create products based on these APIs from the large corporations and to do activities. And so there seems to be a movement of people trying to create, they're calling them agents, to create agents that are able to help you do things or automate your daily tasks. So, summarizing your email, summarizing the news, getting in contact. I mean, there was this flop of the Humane AI pin, I think it was called, where you would be able to give some sort of like voice command, send a note to Amy because I need dinner this evening, or whatever, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there seems to be a lot of work going into some sort of attempt to create automation to everyday tasks. And I think that's mostly a good thing, right? I mean, all of these things are good things, in the sense of automation, freeing up time for other activities, trying to get a grasp on the flood of information that we're having at
Mhm.
this time. So, um, but I'm not really sure how that's going to shake out. We're seeing a lot of investment in these types of companies. We're seeing
Lot.
investments in companies that are creating different styles of, we'll call them AI-based social networks, but social networks that allow you to interact with other people based around very specific activities. And this is all sort of like, what's old is new again kind of stuff, because there were we used to have web rings, right? You used to have on web pages, you'd have a thing that says go to the next web page about Dungeons and Dragons, And so you had this sort of organized activity around or organized a network around specific activities, and there seems to be
Yep.
some investments in creating particular types of groupings or communities around.
When we were in high school, and then we were both, of course, at Virginia Tech. Were you playing Dungeons and Dragons? I think I remember.
Oh, yeah, I played Dungeons and
Yeah,
Dragons when I was a teenager.
you guys would
Not
have
in
all these
college, when I was a
elaborate
teenager.
things. I remember. Yeah.
Hmm.
For,
Yeah, I mean, it was.
yeah.
I mean, we're Gen X, right? I mean, that's who we're the Star Wars generation. We're the Dungeons and Dragons generation. That all that stuff came out when we were kids and teenagers. So yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
I
um,
remember. I remember this. I wasn't into it. I was in biology and you were in computer science, but I remember you guys, it was just really elaborate stuff, really cool stuff that I would see you guys doing. I have something that I do, like when I do research, I'm doing some research right now in nanotechnology and dementia. So I have, there's like 3 or 4 AIs that I'll just put in information. I'll say, go find me the most recent articles on dementia. And then it'll give me a spread, like all these different AIs. And I look to see what crossover and I'll ask them to do whatever, but it's not perfect. I mean, it still needs me to evaluate it. But what it does is it crunches information down for me, right?
right. Yeah, it's we've sort of flipped the internet search thing, right? So it used to be that when you did a web search, you'd type in, I don't know, best salsa recipe, right?
Mhm.
And then you type in best salsa recipe, and then you get a list of 10 links, and you go, oh, okay, I'll click on this one.
Right,
And this link is just an advertisement for somebody's jar of salsa, and you click on the next one. And so, well, this one has way too much garlic in it, and you click on the next one, and then you sort of evaluate the links, and you go, oh, this looks like a pretty good one. It's got a lot of good reviews. I'm going to try this best salsa recipe.
right.
Fantastic, right? So, and now, you with your prompting in with a large language model, is you're sort of typing in, I want the best salsa recipe, but make sure it doesn't have too much garlic and make sure
Mm,
it's not selling somebody's product and make sure it's not what. So you're doing sort of a pre-filtering, pushing it into the prompt of the large language model. And then you get one answer out, which is hopefully what you were looking for. So it's a really interesting sort of, I mean, paradigm shift is kind of old business jargony kind of way of describing it, but this sort of mindset, this thinking where we've flipped the filtering and in the search process, where you become much more exact with the types of things that you're looking for, and you put it into this device, and then you get an answer out, as opposed to you give a sort of a slightly more general query, and then you get a long list of things, and then you do the filtering afterwards. Very interesting idea. But yes, you do absolutely positively have to control and correct the output to make sure that it's not generating bullshit.
right,
Absolutely.
exactly. I remember in the 2008 economic collapse, there was this saying like we're all Marxists now and this kind of thing. At that time, I said we're more like all librarians now because you had everybody's doing bookmarking and searching and all that. I think with the AI, I've come up with another term. We're all prompters now because the better that you are prompting, right, the better that
Yeah.
you'll find information.
Yeah. Well, we've changed our styles of internet search. So whatever way you want to sort of describe it, you go and ask, you become questions with. I mean, what's new, what's old is new again, right? There's nothing new under the sun. 25 years ago, I'm sure, maybe not longer, 20 to 25 years ago, there was a internet search engine called Ask Jeeves. And they had some
Yes.
novel sort of language technology where you could ask questions and then you would get something that would resemble an answer, right? So we're all back at Ask Jeeves again, right? So there's
Whatever happened
nothing
to
new
Ask
under the sun.
Jeeves?
Excuse me?
Whatever happened to Ask Jeeves?
Oh, it collapsed like the rest of it. It got eaten by Google. Everything, all of them got eaten by Google, right? So you remember way back in the bad old days, Yahoo paid people. I know someone who had this job.
Mhm.
She would get a list of links and then they would put it into this index and they would try to decide where this web page went. Oh, this is a web page about sports. So we'll put it in sports,
Mhm.
ball sports, football, college, whatever, this hierarchy.
Yep.
And then, they were paid to figure out where to put these links in this hierarchy. And then there was, you remember the search engine wars, and then there was Alta Vista,
Mhm.
and then Google came out and they had their PageRank algorithm, and they just devoured everybody else. And it was a fantastic product when it came out, and it
Mhm.
was even a cocky product. Remember, does Google? I don't use Google anymore, but does Google still have the "I'm feeling lucky" button where you type in and you say because they were so confident that their answers were good enough that the top result was going to be exactly what you were looking for. That's
I
kind of
haven't used
confidence.
Google in probably 5 or 6 years, I guess. So
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
I've gotten out of the Google search world, and
Well,
I use
and now
DuckDuckGo
they're
now.
getting sued, are the government suing them for antitrust. So I guess,
That's done.
oh, it's
They are
finished.
now
Okay.
they have been the findings of fact that they are a monopolist. So the decision is a little bit confusing because they found that they were monopolists in search, but they weren't monopolists or complete monopolists in advertising. So there's a lot that needs to be shaken out there, and of course it'll go to appeals, and they'll try to figure out how to run out the clock, and depending on who the president is, and then maybe they'll be paid off to not to drop the case on the part of the DOJ. So
Mhm.
that's what happened with IBM. IBM just waited 13 years for their antitrust thing until Reagan became president, and then they dropped it. And by then, everything had changed anyhow. So you
I
know,
see.
but that the good news, the good part of that is that the IBM PC that they created with open products and that off the shelf that is we'll call it created, or this was the dawn of our current technology revolution, was a direct result of them being on their best behavior
Mhm.
as a result of that earlier monopoly case. So who knows what's going to happen in the next 13 years? And then the really sad thing is that these legal things, which are supposed to be based on truth and justice and basically sort of like very high-minded and proper societal views on corporate behavior. The really sad thing is that at the end of the day, it's all politics anyhow,
Mhm.
which means it's all money anyhow, which means that Google as a company that basically it doesn't just pluck money from trees, it generates trees that generates money. It is a money generating factory. I mean, that you just go. I mean, one of the things that came out in that trial was that they were spending 20 billion a year just to be the default on Apple's search product in
Wow.
Safari, right? 20 billion a year just to be the default. That's it. For one setting from Apple to say which one of these search engines is going to be number one, and that's going to cost you 20 billion a year. Yeah, I mean, I'd take that money. Believe me, for 20 billion. I'd
That's,
probably put a couple of my morals aside for a day.
yeah,
I,
you want to have the government and trade organizations and all that keeping a watch, and also, citizen watchdogs. And like you said, when you get this suit that goes on, and even if you don't get the full amount, it causes decent behavior, and then you can spread out. The developers can start to do more, and whatever the open source happens, and this kind of thing. Um, Before we end up here, I want to ask you about the elections coming up. Okay, so we're 3 months away. Well, what is it, 2.5 months, really?
yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
the really main part. AI and elections.
Well, 2016, we learned that social networks. I guess I mean back in 2016 seems like
It
yesterday, doesn't
seems
it?
like forever.
Now, in some ways, it seems like forever. But anyhow, back in 2016, the main thing we were talking about were the influence of social networks on
Right.
how people, the thinking of people and their how they process information, right? This was happening in 2016, and then we saw through the Cambridge Analytica, I think is what it was called, and this hyper focus on how Facebook was curating information and presenting information to Facebook users. And so today, I don't think any of that's changed, right? If people, except the social networks have changed. So Facebook is used by old people. Instagram is
Like
used
me.
by yeah. So by Gen X, I guess Instagram is Gen Y, and Gen Z, Gen Z is using TikTok, I guess, and Instagram. There's some sort of like, and hopefully nobody's using Twitter, but apparently their daily active users are going up due to the rantings of a madman, and so we are in. Hopefully, we learn something from the misuse of social networks, because social networks with the wide application of high quality fake news, high quality bullshit, high quality believable things is a very, very bad recipe. That will not end up well. So I really hope that there is methods or there are ways of preventing the dissemination of nonsense so that real people are not influenced by fake ideas. And so, but that's always been the problem. It's just that with highly online connected people and social networks, that just makes the velocity of nonsense to be, and maybe even the momentum of nonsense to be insurmountable. And I'm concerned. But it seems like Harris, she's got a very, very good social media team, and it looks like they're a little faster than nonsense. So, I mean, maybe that's the whole secret of the modern world in politics, is that you just got to figure out how to be faster than nonsense. And I don't know. I'll go with that. But yeah, I'm concerned. I'm real concerned that the bullshit machine can surmount truth. Sure. Maybe I think that's the only thing else about the elections coming up.
Yeah, let's plan to stop back on this topic after the elections, and we'll check in and see how accurate or
I mean, this is huge, right? This is really, really huge, because whoever wins, right, depending on how they choose to do things with antitrust, with attacking the monopolization and the consolidation within the technology industries, and with the AI industries, or in regulation, and all these things. I mean, it's huge. Well, I mean, we will see. We may see, a step change in November, and that will probably not be good.
Thanks a lot for your time. I've been speaking with Oliver Sampson, computer engineer on AI. Cheers.
Thank you.